Coming up, new data from the CDC shows declines in overdose deaths.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. New data from the CDC shows that overdose deaths are dropping nationwide, down 3% from December of 2022 to December of 2023. In Kentucky, those tragedies have reduced by nearly 8%, well outpacing the national average. Tonight, Jeremy Toms looks at how people are working together to save lives.
Pre-COVID, Kentucky's overdose deaths were declining year after year.
As a pandemic spread across the Commonwealth, so too did waves of tragedy stemming from a different source.
In February of 2020, we had days that our ambulances weren't making a run. And when COVID happened, that number went to 6 to 7 overdoses a day.
But the latest CDC data indicates both Kentucky and the country may be turning a corner.
Kentucky is more than twice the national average in terms of a reduction in overdose deaths.
Fayette County Coroner Gary Ginn tells me that Lexington's decline is even sharper than both the state and the nation, down from 210 overdose deaths in 2022 to 179 in 2023. That mark is also the city's lowest since at least before the pandemic.
It kind of reinforces what we're doing. You may have a bad day or a bad week, but when you see a report like this, it kind of recharges the batteries a little bit.
Seth Lockard captains the community paramedicine program with Lexington Fire.
Within 24 to 72 hours after an overdose, we're knocking on individuals' doors to provide them the support that they need.
They've purchased thousands of Narcan doses, initiated a Leave Behind program, and more.
Narcan is more readily available. People in Kentucky now know that treatment on demand exists. Addiction, it affects the entire person. And so it takes a full comprehensive effort.
Fortunately, Matt Brown with ARC Recovery Centers feels the state has all the tools it needs to continue this trend.
And it would be critically important that we don't spike the football too early because there are lives depending on it.
Jeremy Toms, WYMT Mountain News.
Kentucky's Office for Drug Control Policy is set to release its own annual data in June. The state also has a new website, findnaloxone.ky.gov, to help those who need it find Narcan. 3 people are accused of setting a house on fire to collect insurance money. State police say they got a call from Barberville police about a fire investigation on Pitzer Street. They say 3 people admitted to setting the fire. 58-year-old Ann Sloan, 66-year-old Donnie Sloan, and 56-year-old Beatrice Isaac, all of Barberville, are charged with arson and wanton endangerment. Someone living in the basement of that home was able to escape without being injured.
We are tracking some calm weather to close out your Tuesday, and the big story for the middle of this week, some cooler conditions are on the way. Let's go to First Alert Pinpoint Doppler this evening, and again, for most we are dry, but we are watching out for a few light showers over northern Kentucky, so a first alert close to I-64 in Rowan County and Moorhead. A few showers are possible over the next 10 to 15 minutes as that pushes off to the south and east. Most of us right now in the 50s and 60s. As we go to the temperature, looks like my computer may be frozen this evening, so we may not be able to show those temperatures, but most of us right now in the 50s and 60s. We end up in the middle 50s to wake up on your Wednesday, and only a small chance of a stray shower, maybe a few sprinkles to go into late Tuesday and early on Wednesday. Like I said, though, the big story tomorrow, we are close to average to below average, middle to lower 70s on your Wednesday, a small chance of a shower, and we are much cooler to go into Wednesday night. Lows in the upper 40s to lower 50s. Steve, I'm going to restart this computer, and hopefully we'll have it up for main weather in just a few minutes. Back to you.
All right, the severe storms may have fried your weather computer, maybe. Cameron, thank you. Well, the cleanup continues after those rounds of severe storms during the long holiday weekend. Hazard City Manager Tony Eversole says they had boots on the ground almost immediately following the severe weather. He says calls coming in are mainly about downed trees, but want to remind folks that not all fallen trees are the city or county's responsibility.
You always got to worry about right-of-ways and whose property it's on, and we can't go on private property and cut something. But when the storms hit and it blows their stuff and blocks our county streets and our city streets, we get run on it and we try to get clear.
5 deaths in Kentucky were blamed on the storms. None of those were in eastern Kentucky. Now, the power outage map continues to improve tonight. At last check, more than 29,000 customers are still without power across the state, but that's down from more than 200,000 at one point. Most of the outages are now in western Kentucky, where you see all those colors. Although there are still hundreds in the dark in Leslie County, they have the most outages in our region at this point. Some parts of western Kentucky were hit by tornadoes for the second time in about 2.5 years. In the Barnsley community of Hopkins County, Clara Rice's home was destroyed in the December 2021 tornadoes. Back then, she also thought she had lost her 2 infant grandsons. That night, they were found in a bathtub and their lives were saved. Now, 2.5 years later, her home was destroyed once again.
I said, Lord, it doesn't matter if you take my home or not. You've given me life, and I praise you for it. You know, you saved me once before, me and my grandsons, and I praise you and thank you for that, and I know you're going to do it twice. This is just material things. It can be replaced. A life can't.
Clara says she plans to rebuild her home right where it stood on that hill, just like she did the last time. Top golfer Scottie Scheffler's case is set to return to a Louisville courtroom for a hearing tomorrow. A spokesperson for the Jefferson County Attorney's Office would not comment on the reason why the office is calling for the hearing. Scheffler faces charges including felony assault on a police officer, criminal mischief, and reckless driving. It stems from an incident earlier this month at the PGA Championship where Scheffler was trying to get to his tee time. Today marks 1 week since the May primary election, and one of the big races was, of course, the Knott County wet dry vote, which made the county wet. Knott County Clerk Reese Cornett says it will take several months for an ABC office to be created and licenses to be approved before folks in Knott County will start to see the sale of alcohol. Kentucky State Police Trooper Matt Gayhart says they will continue to patrol the county and remind folks to drive sober or get pulled over.
We oftentimes refer to the legal limit of being our threshold, which is a .08. People don't understand that is our per se limit, which meaning that is when you're presumed intoxicated by the courts. Impairment can take place as low as half that legal limit, maybe even lower.
Gayhart says age, height, weight, and tolerance levels are all factors that go into the limit folks can drink before being considered an impaired driver. One Pike County woman will represent the region as the newest Kentucky Bar Association president. Rhonda Blackburn, who works on the Pikeville Medical Center legal team, will take on the position as the first Eastern Kentuckian to hold the title in more than 40 years. She says the plan is to spread awareness about the educational opportunities and mental health resources available through the association while spreading her love for the region alongside Dan Click, the new head of the Young Lawyers Division, who is also from Pikeville.
So we're going to make the dream team and proudly represent Eastern Kentucky within the whole attorneys across the state.
Blackburn says the position is volunteer, but she's excited to put in the needed work and is blessed to have PMC support along the way. As the school year comes to a close across the mountains, one district celebrated one of its employees for saving the life of a student. WYMT's Jack Dimler has more from a heroic lunch worker.
She's a real hero in my eyes.
On May 10th, Everett's Elementary food service employee Lexi Adkins went above and beyond after seeing a kindergarten girl was choking.
Everything just happened so fast. It was hard to really think about it. You just had to just do it.
And she responded and saved the kid's life from choking.
Using a LifeVac device she was trained to use at the beginning of the school year. A training she never expected to be needed.
I thought this was something that would be good to know, but I didn't really think we'd ever have to use it.
Training that could go beyond school.
It's one of the most important things we can do because, of course, we can use it at work and save, our students or our staff members, but that's something, too, you can take home and use with your family members at home.
An act of heroism that Adkins didn't think twice about.
It's just something that needed done in that moment, and I didn't really think anything of it, and I still don't really.
An act that got her honored at Tuesday's Harlan County Board of Education meeting.
I thank God for it. It's a blessing. I mean, you know, this right here shows that it's worth the effort.
For Adkins, it's all about knowing what to do in times of need.
When you've got small children around, it's good to know what to do if something like this were to happen, so just educate yourself.
Using the things she learned to go above and beyond. In Harlan County, Jack Demler, WYMT Mountain News.
Director of Food Services Jack Minyard says they get trained every year, and he encourages all the employees to be certified in CPR, AED, and first aid training. Coming up on Mountain News at 11, a jury could begin deliberations tomorrow in Donald Trump's hush money trial.
Plus, we are tracking some lows in the 40s by Wednesday night, also by Thursday night. Those details coming up.